Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning into this live stream episode of Dogman Encounters. I really appreciate you coming. And on tonight's show, so that you know, we're going to welcome back Kim from episodes 399 and 488. On episode 399, Kim came on and talked about an encounter she had when she was younger, going down this lonely road when this 10-footer crossed the road in front of her and scared the dickens out of her. Well, fast forward to recent time, and I guess about maybe a month or so ago, maybe a hair over a month ago, she had an encounter with a female dog woman that she's named Ember. Well, last weekend, when she was driving home from her mother's house, she happened to see 5 dogmen, and we're starting to wonder if that might not have been Ember's family. And there's a good possibility when you listen to her share this most recent experience that Ember might have been with that group that day. Well, without any further ado, let's bring Kim on here. Kim, are you there?
Hello, Vic.
Hey, Kim, thanks so much for coming back. I appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Well, it's great having you. It really is. Kim, obviously that first encounter you had, the one you chronicled in episode 399, that shook you up quite a bit. But from what you said on episode 488, your encounter with Ember didn't. Did this most recent experience, did it rattle you at all, or was it kind of like the one you told us about with Ember?
I would compare it with Ember because of the distance that they were away from the road. If they'd have been close to the road, I might have been a little bit shook up. But it was really nice that I could observe them the way I did.
Oh, well, that's a good thing. If you have to have a dogman encounter, if it's not a traumatic one, that's a definite plus. Well, I could throw more questions at you, but let's get down to brass tacks. If you don't mind, please tell us about what happened when you had this most recent experience.
Oh, okay. My mother lives in another town, and I've already explained all this before. I'm on those back roads a lot because that's how I come and go between here and there. I mean, I'm on the back roads 2 or 3 times a week because my mother's older, of course, and I just spend time with her. It's not that she needs my help much. I just go out there. So work and my mom are probably pretty much my life, but I'm on these roads a lot and I'm very familiar with these roads. And on Saturday of last week, I was coming home at about 4:30 to 5 o'clock, which is the sun going down here where I live in Kansas City. And I was on a nice paved asphalt road. It's a little nicer than some of the other roads that I traverse. And I turned, I was originally headed south and I turned and was headed east. And as I headed east, I encountered some woods and a field and some other woods. But just up the hill from here is the interstate. And I saw Ember on the other side of that interstate. If you drew a line as the crow flies from where she was and where these were, it could have been a straight line, except that they had to get under or over that interstate somehow. But it wasn't like a mile from where I saw Ember. I mean, it's just crazy. Now, I'm not saying that that is Ember. I'm hoping it is, just for the fairy tale aspect of it. But um, as I rounded that corner and headed up that street, there's a house on my right. I drove past the house, and on the left side, this field begins. There's woods at the east end and the west end of this field, and the field gradually goes up a soft hill. It's not a real steep hill. There's a lot of deer around, and the time of night that I was driving, the deer are out. And so you watch for them to cross the road, or you see them in the fields. And I saw movement at the top of the hill. And if I hadn't been paying attention, I would have totally missed these guys. They were at the top of the crest of the hill. If they had been past that area, I wouldn't have gotten to see them either. It was like it was just too perfect. I saw movement and I looked and I knew immediately what they were. I've been on the shows enough, listening and looking at pictures, and they're undeniably were dogmen. There were two that were large and were walking upright. And in the probably 3 to 4 foot tall, dry, golden grass, this time of year everything turns a yellow. I like to say gold. I don't like to be negative, but the golden tan grass that Kansas particularly, we have a prairie grass, and this field is not particularly mowed or kept much. So I see the two dog men that are walking, but I could see something in the grass, and I kept watching. I actually pulled over because they were about 300 feet from the road, and I felt it was safe, and I had to see them. I can't drive past this. And I didn't have my binoculars. They're in the car now. I promise they're in the car. If there's a next time, I'm going to see what I'm looking at. So these guys are at the top of the hill, and there's movement in the grass, and I thought it might be coyotes moving with them, but it was three. It was three of the same species. There were three other dog people. They did eventually stand up and walk on all fours. This field is probably not even an acre across, so this whole encounter or experience, this wasn't really an encounter, um, probably took a total of a minute, maybe a minute and a half. They were not in any way, shape, or form moving quickly. They were just ambling along, just like they were down on the Country Club Plaza looking at the lights. They're just strolling across there. And there were two bigger ones, about the same size. The other three were like stair steps. I can't give you a footage because I wasn't close enough to them to gauge actual height. But there was one a little smaller than the big ones, and then another one that was smaller, and then another small one. Now these guys, the two big ones were brawny guys. They were well proportioned, had the triangular upper body, and I could even notice their ears twitching a little bit. And let's see. I don't know if I saw tails. I can't say anything about tails. I could not see their lower feet exactly because of the grass. But anyway, there were five of them, and there was a smaller one. And I'd say the smaller one was probably 5 foot because this grass was probably at its tallest about 4 feet, and I could see that smaller one above the grass, its head. But I saw there were five of them, and Vic and I discussed this about why would they be all together like that, because I guess that's not a common thing. But they were just marching across the field, just as happy as you, you could be, and they were going from east to west. The interstate is east, so they had come, and the interstate is not that far from where the woods they came out of. Let's see, there's a road. Let me think. Yeah, there's a road. There's a road behind them. It would be a road, and then a little bit of space, and then the interstate. So they were coming out of a thin band of woods not far from the interstate. Now the woods that they were traversing into, there's a house. It's behind a house, and then there was a house behind me to the right. So there were people everywhere. I didn't see anybody, but this is a residential area, and there were five of these guys. Just amazing. Anyway, I did kind of glance around a little bit to see if there was anybody around, and there wasn't. I don't know what I would have done if I'd seen somebody, and not a single car went by. And that time of night, there should be people coming home from work, but I just had my minute alone with these five creatures, and it's amazing that there were so many of them. And believe me, it pretty much set me to be convinced now that they are definitely in this area. I wish the people that had told me that they had seen encounters in the same areas I have would please give their stories to Vic. I would love to hear them. I'm just wanting to know what other people have seen in common with what I'm seeing here in this area. Vic, I don't know what else to say other than it was just crazy.
Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up. And so that you know, if those people do contact me to let me know about those encounters, I'll definitely let you know in turn. And I'll see if I can arrange a conversation so you can speak with them if you'd like to.
Oh, that would be, oh my gosh, that would be great. That would
Yeah.
be just great. Yeah.
Be glad to do that. Yeah, count on it. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I've already got a question for you, and it is from James Escobar. James wants to know, what type of dogmen were they?
Well, I'm assuming they were just the, I don't know how they go one, two, three. This is just the plain dogman with the canine haunches and that dog style foot. They were not walking on straight legs, so they're not, it wouldn't be the number three kind that look more human. These were the kind that I've seen before, just like Ember and my big guy 50 years ago, looking just like a dog standing up on its back feet, except for the arms. And the funny thing is their arms were actually swinging, which makes you kind of think of a an ape, the way they were, ambling along, those long arms.
Well, their arms are pretty ape-like in a lot of cases, so yeah, that makes sense. I've got another question for you from J Mommy, and she wants to know, what state is Kim in?
Kansas.
All right, I've got that taken care of. Looking for the next question, which is from Gia Blonde, and Gia wants to know, what is the relationship between Dogman and the rake? Do you know anything about rakes, Kim?
No, I don't know anything about rakes. The only other creature I've ever experienced, I've told you, is a skinwalker style. Um, so I actually don't know of a what that would. I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
I'm glad you can't. Hope you never do have an experience with a rake.
Oh, I think a rake would probably terrify me.
Yeah, that makes two of us. It probably would. That's why I'm so glad you never had an experience with one. Hope you never do. That's for sure. Well, I've got another question for you from the Polish mom, and she wants to know, do you think they saw you?
No, they did not. They didn't notice me at all. I had my eyes on them the whole time, and they never once looked down that hill. They didn't notice me at all. But you have to realize they just came out of an area where there's an interstate. So motor vehicles are something that they're familiar with. So my car being down the hill from them probably didn't affect them at all.
Oh, I'm sure it did, and it takes a lot to knock them off their game, so to speak. So, yeah, for them, I'm
For,
pretty sure it was business as usual.
for all I know, they might have been following some deer. I didn't see any deer, but all I saw was them. But they were crossing the field. They might have been after, some deer across there.
Yeah, they might have been making a living out there. Before we move on, if you have any questions for Kim, please be sure to type it in all caps so I don't miss it. I've been missing questions because they aren't in all caps, and if I can, I want to prevent that. Well, moving on, if one of those dog people happened to be Ember, do you have an opinion on which one it might have been? Did you see any that just might have been her?
Well, they were too far away to tell the sex, but since the two tallest ones, let's change that. The two smaller ones, one was exactly about half the height of the two bigger ones. So if it was Ember, she would have been the smaller one or the next to the smaller one.
I see, that makes sense. Well, I've got a question from Victor Palucci, and Vic wants to know, do you think they're a natural animal or supernatural?
I think they're a natural animal. I've encountered supernatural type stuff, and these guys don't feel like a supernatural being to me.
That's one of those questions that, if you do this for any period of time, that's probably one of the biggest questions that still remains unanswered that you just beat your head against the wall about. I mean, if you think about it, there are so many credible eyewitnesses who report seeing these guys do things that point soundly towards them having to be supernatural. And then on the other hand, you have so many credible eyewitnesses too who report seeing these guys doing so many things that point soundly towards these guys having to be flesh and blood. So, wow, I don't even really know what to think about that.
Vic,
But it
as
looks,
strange of a Vic, as strange of a creature as they are, and if anyone were to believe in parallel universes, they possibly that doesn't necessarily make them supernatural, being able to be in more than one, um, you know, universe at a time or plane. So that's a possibility too, that they just come and go between two parallel universes, which means they have abilities above and beyond ours. That doesn't necessarily make them supernatural because if it's a natural thing that they can do, then, if it's natural for them.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's very well said. I've got another question for you from the Polish mom. She wants to know, what time was it when you saw them? How close were they to an actual house where people live?
I have to think about that for just a second. The house, well, they were 300 feet from the road. So there was a house right over my shoulder. So they were 350 feet from a house, maybe that direction. And then the direction they were headed, they were probably, oh, maybe 5 meters behind the house that was on the next road before they crossed through the woods.
I see. Well, that's pretty close then.
Yeah, it is really close.
Yeah, that is close. I've got more of a comment than a question from C Phantom 009. They are, or in their comment, it says, "Hi Vic, from experience, Dogman's body movement seems to be more aligned regarding a supernatural aspect. Really, really fast, in other words. What are your thoughts? Do they maybe manipulate our perception?" And the show's about Kim, so I'm going to throw that at you, Kim. Do you have any opinions on that?
Well, since I don't believe they're supernatural, I mean, I really can't answer that. Um, I know they move very swiftly because I know that when little Ember was in the woods, coming through the woods, I could hear her, but I didn't see anything for a long time. And she was moving pretty fast. So as for the speed, and that big one that I encountered when I was a teenage girl, he moved really fast, really fast. So I understand what he's saying.
Yeah, it does make sense. When I read that, I thought, okay, I see where he's coming from. All right. The next question is from HM5Y. And they want to know, was it a family of dogmen you saw?
There were 5 and they were varied in size. I'm thinking they were a family. When I talked to Vic originally about that, I asked him if that could be Ember's family. I think it was a family. I do. I mean, and like I said, they're making remarks about them not moving very fast, but the short distance they crossed in that minute wasn't that far to cross, but they weren't moving fast. They were ambling along, and that kind of puts me in mind of a family at ease with each other. Maybe no pressure. Maybe they just didn't know where they were headed for sure, and were kind of looking for a safe place to go. So yeah, they seemed like a unified group, a family.
That makes sense. All right. The next question for you is from Shira Lee. And Shira Lee wants to know, do you think dogmen would bring their pups to see you?
Oh, wouldn't that be great? Do I think they would bring their pups to see me? Well, they allowed a half-grown pup to be seen by me. So maybe I'll get to see some pups. I definitely am on the outlook for them now. I'd love to see their pups, but I don't know if they'd bring them to me. That would
Well,
be fun.
at the rate you're going, you just might see some more pups. Well, I guess Ember's not really a pup, but yeah, like I said, at the rate you're going, they just might bring some pups to you. It's hard to say. I wouldn't be surprised. Well, the next question is from Shane Michael Crisp with the West Coast Dogman Project. And Shane wants to know, are there any native burial grounds or reservations where you had your encounter?
Let's see. Okay. This area does have a lot of Indian history, specifically not to the area where they were, but I do believe they thought they ran into some Indian burial grounds when they were putting in 435. That's been years ago. That place that highway went in. Oh, I don't know, 25 years ago. And I do think they encountered some Indian burial grounds when they were putting that in. Um, yeah. So yes, the answer is yes, I guess. Yes.
Yeah, that's a common thread amongst encounters. So, yeah, good question. Well, the next question is from a recent guest, Adolph Santa Stephen. And Adolph wants to know, AD wants to know, what color and length was their hair? Did dogs in the neighborhood bark at all?
No, no. It was that eerie, loud silence. And they weren't not close enough to me for me to note a variation in their hair color, but it appeared to be dark. They were all black or gray, I would think would be my judgment on that.
All right. The next question is from Mystery Junkie, and they want to know, what color were they? Was the fur neat or matted?
Oh, come to think of it, it was a little messed up because I know the three smaller ones were on all fours and were dragging through that grass. So it was messed up. They weren't all. I mean, like I said, they were too far away for me to note like sticks and mud and things tangled in their hair, but they were messed up. They didn't look like they came straight out of the salon this time.
Well, when you consider how these guys make a living, that's not a surprise. They can't always look tidy. The next question is from Dan Lardino. I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but he wants to know, how many types of dogmen are there?
Well, from what I've gleaned from just the shows and things I watch, three types. I'm not clear on what the three types are exactly, but I know the third type is the one that has the more human looking legs and stands more upright. These guys were of either the first or second type. Vic, can you answer that?
Yeah, there are two main categories of dogmen. You've got what I call canine type dogmen, like the ones that you've seen with the canid style legs. Then you have what people refer to as type 3s or Gugwe. They have hominid style legs, and some of them have heads that look kind of baboonish, but
Yeah.
inside of both of those two main categories, you have multiple variants. So, yeah, it's hard to put an exact number on how many types of dogmen there are, but yeah, there are tons of different types. I mean, I've spoken with people over the years about probably the people I've spoken with have probably had encounters with 7 or 8 variations of each of those two main categories. So there are a lot of variances out there when it comes to dogmen. But the next question is from Dire Wolf Dan. And Dan wants to know, if one of the dogmen were Ember, do you think she trusts you, Kim, with seeing her pack?
Well, if they have the capacity of knowing that I'm close by, from what I've experienced, I would say yes.
And two, I don't think it's really up to her if the pack shows themselves to you or not. I mean, she's not really a kid, but I think it's pretty safe to say that she doesn't call the shots.
No, but I'm saying if they know that, and if when I saw Ember, if these guys were close around then they would have seen me too.
Yeah, that's a good point. The next question is from Victor Palucci. Vic wants to know, how big were they?
Okay. I'm just gonna hazard a guess here. The two biggest ones were probably 7 feet, and then there was one that was maybe 6 feet, and then the other two are maybe 5 and 4 feet because they were just exact stair steps from the two biggest, and then the other three got smaller.
I'm sure that's a sight that's never going to leave your mind.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, I understand why. Well, the next question is from Spoonie's World, and that question is, what's the number one piece of advice you'd give if you cross paths with a Dogman?
I'd say peacefully back away or just go away. I mean, so far I've been on four rubber wheels when I've seen them, so my thing would be just leave in a peaceful way. I have no intention of ever engaging one, but I sure would stop to look if it was a safe distance. Now, the experience I had with Ember was a surprise. I really did not expect to see her when I stopped. I just there she was just there all of a sudden. Hmm.
Yeah, she kind of forced her hand on that one. The next question is from Direwolf Dan, and Dan wants to know, could Ember trust Kim with seeing her pups when she has some?
Oh, definitely. She could trust me. I wouldn't tell a single soul. I would just mem- tell her they were pretty and healthy and she was lucky and go on about my business. Gosh, that would be something.
Yes, it would be. I don't think the word something really sums it up, does it?
No, not at all.
No, it doesn't. And you wouldn't believe all the questions pouring in, Kim. Holy cow. We've got our hands full here. It looks
So
like the next question for you is from C Phantom 009, and he says, "Hi Vic, what was the first thought and or feeling during the encounter? Thank you."
the current encounter was
Yes.
I just realized they were dogmen and I said I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop and watch. Um, I don't have a fear of them, especially at a distance like that. I don't have an innate fear of them. I'm not stupid. I would never, like I said, engage one, but it's I consider it a privilege. They totally enthrall me, intrigue me, and I will definitely be looking for them from here on out.
Well, I can understand why. 3 encounters in, and who knows how many you might have in the future. But at least you're having good encounters, relatively good encounters. So it could definitely be a lot worse. All right. The next question is from Method Unsound, and that question is, do you think I'm not going to ask that question. We'll leave that one
I saw it.
unasked. Let's see. The next question is from Sam Taylor, and that question is, do you think the Dogman is responsible for some of the disappearances of missing people?
I think that's definitely possible, but only from the stories that I've listened to. I definitely know by looking at them they have the capability. But so far, my encounters have been peaceful with these guys, and if I totally absorb and decide that that's my opinion, then it's gonna create a fear in me. So I'm just gonna leave that. Maybe it's one of the other kinds. I don't know, or maybe it just depends. Just like us, we defend our families, we defend um, our homes, and I don't know if one would be vicious and actually attack, but maybe there's just a misunderstanding. They are animals, as intelligent as they are. They're still animals at this point. We don't know any different. So what are the reasons for, taking people if that person is just in the wrong place at the wrong time? It's kind of spooky when you think about how some of those bodies are found. So I mean, how do we know it's dogmen? There's a lot of other things it can be too. I'm on the dogman side. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, you've had 3 encounters that turned out to be pretty amicable. So Yeah, I can understand why you would be. Even that first encounter with the 10-footer that crossed the road, yeah, that really frightened you, but he never really did anything to seem aggressive or anything like that. So even that one wasn't an encounter with a dangerous dogman, what you could call a dangerous dogman. So yeah, thank goodness.
But you have to realize that I thought I was looking at Satan as a 16-year-old young lady. That's what I thought I was seeing. I didn't know what a dogman was. So yes, that was terrifying.
Well, yeah, that would terrify anyone. That's definitely understandable. Well, the next question is from the Polish mom, and she wants to know, were you scared at all?
No, not this time at all. Ember, I was a little bit scared because I didn't know who else was around. This one, no, had no reason to be scared. They were too far away. They weren't noticing me. They were just going about their life. I was more just struck with awe than anything.
Ember did bare her teeth at you also, so
Yes,
I mean
she
that's
did.
gonna
She sure did. She bared her teeth at me. She decided I'd looked at her long enough, I think. I mean, who knows? I just left. I'm too smart to try to, you know, get involved in that.
don't blame you. All right, have another question from Timothy Self, and Tim wants to know, have you ever felt threatened with any dogman encounter to the point you left your location?
The first one, the first one I felt threatened. I wasn't threatened. He didn't do anything, but yes, I insisted the driver of the truck leave immediately as because he slowed down because he was in shock at what was crossing the road and he was going to just sit there and I said, "No, let's go go go. Get out of here now." Yes, definitely. I left. It scared me to death. That one scared me to death.
When you see a 10-foot dog man in close proximity, yeah, that's going to shake you up quite a bit. That's natural. Well, the next question is from Jamie Cope, and Jamie wants to know, hi, Kim, did you see them walk bipedally or on all fours? Did you see them transition from 4 to 2 legs? And did you hear any sounds when they did?
Okay, these guys, I did see them stand up. Two of them were bipedal. The three smaller ones originally were on down in the grass on all fours, but as they progressed across the field, they all stood up. That's how I saw there were five of them. Now, Ember, she was upright when I first saw her. She started to go down on all fours and then stood back up. I didn't hear any popping or any noises. No.
Yeah, at that distance, I don't know how you could.
Let's
Well,
talk.
then,
Let's talk about Ember.
well, you're in your car and she wasn't right on top of you, but there was a little bit of distance, so it
Yeah,
still might have been hard to hear.
I didn't hear any, and it was windy that day too. Very windy.
Yeah, that doesn't help. Well, the next question is from a paranormal quest with Angie, and she wants to know, do you think the Chupacabra and the Dogman are related? The bloodsucker.
Oh no, no, I don't. I don't think they're related at all. I think they're two separate cryptids.
All right. The next question is from the Polish mom. She wants to know, who do you think would win a battle, Dogman or Bigfoot?
I think it would probably depend on the age, the size, and the experience of the particular creatures. So I can't judge on that one.
Yeah, that's a pick on me. Think about it. An adult Chihuahua could beat a 2-week-old Rottweiler. So, yeah, it just depends. There's so many variables. And please remember, everyone, if you have any questions, please remember to type them in all caps. That way I won't miss them. All right. The next question is from C Phantom 009. He says, hi, Vic. Where do you think Dogman prefers to lay down to rest? Caves, dens, trees? Thanks. Well, tonight's show is all about Kim. It's not about me. I want to direct that to Kim. Do you have any opinions on that?
In the area that I've encountered them recently, there aren't any. Well, there aren't any caves. The only caves in this area, even the natural ones, have been taken over by man to be made into to cold storage. So I'd say they're probably having to bed down in the fields somewhere. But then there's Interstate 7 and tunnels. I mean Interstate 435 and well, there's K7 too. We have two highways that have tunnels, so that's a possibility too.
All right. This next question is kind of related to the last one, but it's from a different person. This one is from A Paranormal Quest with Angie, and Angie wants to know, hi, Kim, do you think they live in cave systems, and do you think they use them to move unseen?
I just answered that one. There aren't any cave systems in this area for me to think about that particular topic. Like I said, though, there are lots of tunnels or waterways, man-made waterways underneath the highways, but they're only about a mile from the Kansas River where I'm seeing them. So there may be something down along that area that they can utilize to hide in or traversed along the river too. That's not a good answer. I didn't give a very good answer, but that's what I think.
Well, it's kind of a tough question, kind of hard to answer. This next question is from Lance, and Lance wants to know, in what capacity would you camp with small children, knowing what you know about dogmen?
It would have to be a very populated campground. I mean, lots of people. Otherwise, not. No, I wouldn't camp with small children.
Yeah, when you know these guys are out there, it definitely does change the complexion of camping, so I can understand why you would say that. But two, think about it. People camp all the time with their kids, small kids, and don't have any problems. Of course, some people do, but yeah, that's definitely the exception and not the rule. So yeah, people, they rub elbows figuratively. They rub elbows with these guys all the time on camping trips, when they hike, when they fish, and don't have any trouble. So if you want to go fishing, if you want to go camping, live your life. Of course, take the proper precautions. Don't be foolish about it. But yeah, I mean, I hope you just focus on living your lives and you don't let this paralyze you. The knowledge that these guys are out there paralyze you. Because if you do, it really would be a shame. If you're talking about an eyewitness who's had an encounter or encounters with a dogman or dogmen, yeah, it's understandable that it would take time to get back out there. And I wouldn't want them to rush back out there. You know, all in good time, not too much weight on a young back. But ultimately, if you can bring yourself to getting back out there and doing the things that you love to do, that should be the end goal if you think you can muster doing that. But the next question for you is from Mystery Junkie, and they want to know, did any of them have tails? If so, were they long, short, bushy, or thin?
I don't recall if the ones crossing the field had tails or not. I didn't take that in. I was not looking for that. If they did, I may not have been able to see them because of the height of the grass, but Ember had a tail.
Yeah, you were doing good to take in all the details you did. When I've had eyewitnesses come on the show, I've had some come on that were pretty good at throwing details out there, recalling things about the dogman or dogman they saw. But you have to really give it to Kim here. I mean, she is spot on when it comes to putting those details out there, organizing them in a way that it's easy to understand and picture what she experienced. You've got to give her a lot of credit. She's really good at doing that. I'm impressed. Well, Kim, I'm wondering, how close were you to home when you had this most recent experience?
Well, it was about a mile from where I saw Ember, so I was right about 3.5 miles.
3.5 miles. I see. Well, let's see. I've got another question for you from C Phantom 009. And that question is, Any comments regarding Dogman's behavior when cameras are present and during the night with illuminated areas? Do you know anything about that?
No, no. I don't know. I don't know anything about the cameras. Not had any experience with that. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's not your fault. I mean, you're not a Dogman researcher, so how could you answer that question?
No. I'm not a dogman researcher. I'm a dog man spotter.
That's right. That you are. Looks like I have part two to Jamie Cope's question, and that is, do you think that dogmen have a thicker hide, more like a cow with long hair for protection?
Yes, I do agree with that. I do think they have a longer, thicker hair. It would make sense for them to have that protection from the weather anyway, to keep them warmer if they're out, out in the different temperatures. Keep them warm in the summer or warm in the winter and cooler in the summer.
They're definitely well adapted for their environment. And there have been eyewitnesses, Kim, who have had an encounter or encounters, and they're terrified of the idea of having another one. Well, there have been nights where it's been nasty out, or days when the weather is just nasty, cold, bitter cold, and it's snowing and blowing, and no thing in its right mind would be out, you would think. But they have encounters with dogmen still. So anyone listening, if you're in a situation where you think you might have dogmen around your home, or you might be in an area where dogmen are, don't think for a second that just because it's so nasty out that dogmen might not be out and about making a living, because yeah, they have been seen even on the roughest of nights or days when it comes to weather. It doesn't seem to really deter them at all. If they're going to want to get out, they're going to get out, and that's all there is to it. Well, the next question for you is from Mystery Junkie, and that question is, what color were Ember's eyes?
The brightest gold. It's like they were on fire. That's where she got her name, Ember.
I can only imagine what it must have been like to look into those eyes. Wow. All right, the next question is from Shira Lee, and that question is, do they ever come to your home?
They haven't so far. It's not that I don't expect it. Now I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Well, they might, but I don't know. That's left to be seen. I doubt that they will. I've put this out there before on other shows I've done. You've got all these people who fall for this whole novelty when it comes to dogmen. I want to have a dogman encounter. I want to have a dogman encounter. So they do all these things to put themselves in positions to try and have an encounter. And on more occasion than one, when they ultimately do have an encounter, they fall to pieces. I mean, I had a guy recently, not too long ago, contact me. He's a dogman researcher, or said he was a dogman researcher, and he's crying to me for help because he was going to an area where he believed the dogman to be holding up, making a living, and now, Vic, help me. That dogman that I've been researching, he followed me home. So basically, this dogman flipped the script, and instead of you going out there to research him in his home, he returned the favor. He's coming to your home, I guess, to research you. So anyone out there listening who's got it in their mind that they want to go out and they've got to have this encounter, be careful what you wish for, because it ain't no fun when the rabbit gets the gun.
I didn't say I wanted it. I said I wouldn't be surprised if it happened.
No, you didn't, but I'm putting it out there for people that do want to have
Yeah, I know.
encounters.
Right. Oh no, but it still wouldn't surprise me. Not surprise me, it'd probably terrify me, but it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah,
In
well,
the areas I've seen them, they're very populated.
well, like I said, I really hope it never does happen. I hope they never do
I
pay
don't
you a
either.
visit at home.
I think I'd have to
Yeah.
move.
Understandably so. Yeah, that does tend to change things. Well, the next question for you is from Patrick Regan, or Reagan, and his question is, did Ember have any sort of facial expression?
Oh, definitely. She was making faces at me the whole few seconds that she stood there.
She was a sassy little thing, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was definitely she was totally she is not what I would expect my experience of a dog man to be at all. If I was gonna have one, this is not at all what I would have expected.
Yeah, when you described how she was carrying on, yeah, I was thinking I've never heard of an encounter like that, but I mean, it does make sense, her being young and all that, for her to act that way, I guess. So, yeah, that must have been quite a sight to see. Well, the next question for you is from AD Santa Stephen. And AD's question is, does Ember have a pair of breasts or more like a dog's?
Uh, they remind me more of like a dog's, but she wasn't completely developed either. Um, they were kind of small and soft. They weren't they it just made sense to me. She wasn't completely developed, but you could definitely see them. But no, they weren't human looking.
All right. Well, the next question is from the Polish mom, and she wants to know, have you told your family that you saw dogmen? If yes, did they believe you?
The first one I saw, yes, I've told my entire family. I've tried to explain Ember's appearance to my son, and I think he believes me, but I also think he's a little bit leery of believing in something like that. Of course, my I've told my mother, and she just kind of looks at me. These last guys, I haven't told anybody about yet. It takes me a little while to work up the courage to tell anybody.
Well, that's not easy to do. I can understand why. And you never know, your mom, sometime down the road, she might have an encounter of her own, and yeah, that should make her change her tune. So I
As
guess time will
many
tell.
deer as she has on her property, it definitely wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that would make sense. And by the way, everyone in the live chat, these are really good questions tonight. Yeah, keep up the great work. And like I said earlier, if you have any questions for Kim, then yeah, please be sure to type them in all caps. Well, the next question for you is from Spoonie's World, and that question is, who was the first person you told about Ember, and did they believe you?
The first person I told about Ember was a friend of mine at work, and from the expression on her face, she didn't believe me. It was like, sure.
Oh boy. She knows better.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those people. Well, see it for what it is. That's just her ignorance. She's entitled to it. She can think whatever she wants, but yeah, we know the
I know,
truth.
but since her and I have a lot of other beliefs in common, which we won't go into here, I thought she'd be accepting, but I'm not sure she was.
Yeah, well, you'll have that. Well, I've got another great question for you from Timothy's self, and Tim wants to know, do you think Ember knew you were female also?
Yes, I do. I do. I think she did. I think she knew. I don't know why I think that or how I know that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure she knew that I was a female woman. Yes. Female human, I mean, female. A female human. Yes, she knew that.
All right. I've got a question here. It's not in all caps. Almost missed it because of that, but it's another good question from Lily Lewis. And that question is, did you hear any kind of mind speak or did you get any kind of message from her?
You know, I wondered about that. I think I did. I think I did. I think I did. Uh, because it was like, it's kind of like, what are you looking at? Or, why are you looking at me like that? Something like that. But it was kind of, that was an afterthought because I had that thought go through my mind that she's saying, why are you looking at me like that? Or why are you still here? Or something like that. But that was an afterthought because at first I thought that I was putting a caption. I was speaking to myself and putting a caption to her facial expressions, but it could have been that. It really could have.
All right. The next question is from Stephen Weishopt, and Stephen wants to know, or his question is, hi guys, how tall was Ember?
About 5 feet. I'm 5'3", and I'd say she was about 5 feet.
Yeah, she was young then. All right, the next question is from Patrick Reagan, and that question is, have you had any dreams about dogmen or dogwomen after the incident?
Yes, I have. I've had a few tussles in my mind at night about the Ember thing, and it was because of my fear of her dad, brother, mate, partner, whatever being around and discovering me sitting there looking at her. Yes, I had a few disturbing dreams of that style.
Well, when you have an experience like any of these experiences you've had, it's only natural that you're going to dream about them. So, yeah, that shouldn't surprise anyone that you had those dreams. All right, the next question is from Jamie Cope, and Jamie wants to know, Kim, were you able to go back later and check for tracks?
I did not go back and check for tracks. I did go back. I've been down that road several times, just looking at the lay of the land and the woods and considering the houses around there, and just because I can't, when I go through that area, that's what fills my mind is they're here. This is where they are. I did not go back and look for tracks. No. If I had scrambled down the road, I might at the side of the road, I might have not been able to get back up the road. I am an older lady. I'm 65. So no, I did not.
Well, too, if you would have gone back to look for tracks, what would you have done if you turned around and Ember's there holding the bucket ready to pour the plaster into the prints and all? That wouldn't be good.
Well, there's no place to park the car either. There's no shoulders, and it's very curvy. It would have been dangerous if another car had come along.
Yeah, sounds like it must have been, or it would have been. All right, the next question is, I'm not sure if this is a question. Yeah, I guess it is a question, but I don't understand it. It's from Helen Keenan. Can you clarify this for me, Helen? It reads, hi, Vic and Kim, is Dogmen related? And then I see a T. I'm not sure what you're asking here.
She was thinking if those guys were related, I think. And my fantasy about that group is that yes, they're Ember and her family.
I see. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. The next question is from Trey Mabe the Third, and Trey's question is, have you ever tried to feed her and tried capturing a picture?
No, I would not have been foolish enough to try to feed her. And yes, I thought about the picture, but after the fact. I couldn't have scrambled to get my phone fast enough to take a picture of her. And besides, it was a very short encounter, and I wanted the pictures in my mind. So, no, I didn't take a picture.
Can you imagine that if you would have scrambled for your phone to try and snap a photo, and you're looking down at your lap to get your phone out, or wherever your phone is, and you look up and she's gone? You missed however many seconds of observing this amazing creature, all because you're focused on trying to get that $1 million picture of it or her. That would have been horrible.
Yeah, but I had her picture forever burned into my mind's eye. It's just amazing. I consider it such a privilege to be able to see her. And nobody else has seen anything like her that I know of. So I was the lucky one.
Exactly. You've got that picture in your mind's eye. Yeah, that's the best picture there is. All right. The next question, or I guess it's a comment, is from Sugar Moon Garden. And she says, sorry, I didn't realize I needed to do all caps till now. So bear spray as a deterrent, and that's all right. I'll forgive you for not realizing you needed to do all caps, but unfortunately there is a $20 fine. I do accept cash, check, or charge, Sugar Moon Garden, so yeah, see me after the show and I'll collect that way. But as far as her question goes, do you believe in using bear spray as a deterrent, Kim?
If I were going to go into any wooded area, for a period of time, I would probably carry bear spray just for my safety in general.
Hopefully, you'd never have to use it on a dogman, because there's so many instances where I believe a dogman's just trying to bluff charge you or get a response out of you. But if you do something like shoot a dogman or use bear spray on a dogman and it actually injures the dogman or hurts the dogman, there is a difference between being hurt and injured. If you do either one, I mean, who knows how they're going to respond to that. So, yeah, hopefully it would never come to that.
If you remember earlier, I had a question, what would I do? And I just said that I would peacefully try to back away and leave. I wouldn't want to harm them.
Oh, of course, you wouldn't, but there are people out there who, if they had some bear spray on their hip or a 10 millimeter pistol on their hip, they think they're ready to go. And if they do have a dogman encounter, that's the first thing they're going to do is to reach for that bear spray or that pistol. So, yeah, you wouldn't fall into that trap, but there are plenty of people who would, unfortunately. All right. The next question is from C Phantom 009. And that question is, hi, Kim, did anything stand out in regards to how they interacted with each other and their surroundings? Thanks.
I think that maybe where they were walking across, they felt they were pretty camouflaged. I know the hill, it went up the hill. They were just at the top of the hill, and the hill went down the other side. I think maybe they just thought they were, crossing in a safe space, and that's not a very wide field, so they may have chose that crossing area for a reason.
All right. The next question is from the Polish mom, and her question is, do you think dogmen can physically hurt you, or is all that they want to do is to scare you off to death?
I think that their first intention is to scare you. I feel if they wanted to, they could definitely hurt you.
Yes, they most definitely could if they want to. You're right. Well, the next question is from Helen Keenan, and Helen wants to know, hi, Vic and Kim, are dogmen related to Anubis, and do they cloak and go invisible? Where do they come from? I'm not sure if you know the answers to those questions. I'm not too sure I know the answers to those questions.
Well, I know back in history that there are several theories of dog style people, and is more than one god in the world that has a dog head. And there are ancient stories about people in like Siberia and a few other countries that have encountered dog style people in the mountains. That's historical, but as far as them wearing a cloak, no, and becoming invisible, the cloak and the invisibility, that sounds like Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. All right. The next question is from Lance, and he wants to know, Kim, why do you think the government covers up the existence of dogmen?
Why do they cover? Well, they cover. Look at everything else they cover up. They cover it up for the same reason. This is too deep of a theory for you to want to know my opinion. I think they hide a lot of things from us. I could give you a 2-hour speech on that subject, so I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into answering that question. All right. The next question is from Lily Lewis, and she wants to know, do you feel connected to Ember, to her and her clan now?
That's a funny question because she is always in my mind. She just flashes in my mind from time to time. So I haven't quite figured that out yet. I know there's a possibility that they form some kind of a strange relationship to you, and that goes into the supernatural thing again. But I feel like we can have telepathic relationships with human beings, so it is possible that possibly she's marked me. I don't know. That's a very up in the air question. I kind of have my own ideas about that aren't completely formed yet.
All right, very well said. The next one is from the Polish mom, and she wants to know, you've also mentioned you've been listening to different Dogman encounters. Which encounter did you find to be the most frightening?
Well, I listen to more than one channel. Vic's channel isn't the only one I listen to. Some of the more terrifying ones, for reasons don't even sound real. They sound made up. And none of them have been on Vic's show exactly.
Do you really think people would do that just to make a buck, Kim?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, unfortunately, some people would. All right, this isn't a question, but it's more of a comment. It's from Kristen Doleshaw, and Kristen says, "Hello, Vic and Kim. Thanks so much for the live stream. I'm really enjoying listening to them. Well, when you have great guests like Kim and Kai and Brian Tyrrell last night, I mean, how can you go wrong? I'm so glad you like listening to the show, and I'll do the best I can to keep them coming." All right. The next question would be from Helen Keenan. And her question is, are Dogmen related to Anubis? I think that's already been asked.
Yeah, we already covered that.
We've covered that. So the next question would be from Shira Lee. And she wants to know, have you thought about having a sketch done of her?
I have thought about that. I haven't quite figured out who to use for it. I have several friends that are very good at sketching. I just haven't. I have to tell them the story first and before I find somebody to sketch it.
Yeah, easier said than done. I do know a great sketch artist. If you ever decide it's something that you definitely want to do, then yeah, let me know, and I'm sure I could get that set up for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be really easy to do. All right. The next question is, I guess it's kind of related to that last one you just answered, from Patrick Reagan. His question is, have you been able to contact a forensic artist to draw a sketch? Harvey Pratt comes to mind. Yeah, he's a talented sketch artist, definitely. Well, let's see. The next question would be from Spoonie's World, and that is, are Dogmen perhaps related to the 411 missing people?
That theory is out there, but I don't, I haven't received enough evidence for my own personal decision that definitely that's what's going on.
I hope that's not the case. Yeah, just imagine if there are dogmen out there snatching people. It wouldn't surprise me if you do have some dangerous dogmen out there doing that. But yeah, I mean, look at the thousands upon thousands of dogmen eyewitnesses I've spoken with over the years. I mean, how many of them were caught dead to rights? I mean, absolutely dead to rights in compromising situations where if the dogmen they encountered leaning over top of them, and in cases where, they weren't leaning over top of them, but they could have caught them and dispatched them if they wanted to do that, but they didn't do that because they didn't want to do that. So, yeah, this idea that floats around out there that these guys will snatch you up and kill you as soon as look at you, that can't be true. I know it sells seats. It fills seats for shows to make up stories about the flesh-eating dog man and all this stuff, but yeah, if that's how they were programmed to be, that is, some are dangerous, but as a whole, if that's how they were as a whole, then yeah, my experiences definitely wouldn't be the way they have been with all the eyewitnesses. So yeah, please keep that in mind. All right, the next question would be from HM5Y. And their question is, do you think dogmen migrate?
Oh, definitely. I really do. I think they migrate. And the reason being is these areas that I've seen my recent encounters in, I've been driving those roads for since I was 16 years old. And this is the first time I've ever noticed them. So I think the group that I'm seeing is new to the area or has, they may be staying here permanently or be passing through, but I just think that I would have seen them before. I really do. Because I'm very observant about when I drive. Mainly because of that big guy I saw when I was 16. So the sides of the roads and the fields have always been something I pay attention to. So yeah, I do. I think they migrate.
You just might be right about that. All right, the next question is from C Phantom 009. And their question is, hi, Kim, considering the UAP, the unidentified aerial phenomena, do you believe there's a connection to Dogman sightings? Does anything out of the ordinary come to your mind? Thank you.
There haven't been any unusual aerial occurrences in this area recently. I know there have been some, but nothing recently and nothing that I've been made aware of or uh, experienced myself. I do know that that is a common theory. So what I know about that is just what I've learned from other people or in other stories.
All right. The next one is from John Wayne. I don't think it's a real John Wayne, but nonetheless, it reads, what do you make of them being used in government breeding programs?
If that's going on, of course, that has me highly worried because what's the purpose behind it if it is a reality?
Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. Well, I think we're about out of questions, so we can get ready to get out of here. Before we do, I just want to thank you so much for coming on and not only telling us about your experience, this most recent one, but also taking the time to answer all these questions from the listeners. Kim, I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Vic.
I really do. And for the listeners, if you have any encounters that you need help with, it doesn't matter if you want to be a guest on the show or not. If you want to be a guest, we can definitely do that, but that's never a requirement. It's really easy to set up a conversation with me. All you need to do is just to go to dogmenencounters.com, submit a report, and if you do that, then I'll contact you. I'll schedule a phone conversation with you, and that way we can talk about your experience and find out what's giving you trouble or just get it worked out. But having said that, thanks again so much for your time, Kim, and I hope you have a great night.
Bye, Vic.
Take care.